Awesome to have you here, Lars. I'm so excited to have our conversation. And this is all about talking about PSYCH-K and your experience with it. So great place to begin is, how did PSYCH-K find you, or how did you find PSYCH-K?
Yeah, as it always goes, right? You are found, and or you find something. For me, it was I started my health coaching business in 2018, and this was all around habit change. And the 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 process that we used to do that was, I mean, it worked and it shifted, but I always felt there's something missing, something more applicable, maybe something that integrates more than just talking. And then I came across, and I think probably that applies to most PSYCH-K, the majority of the PSYCH-K community. Yeah, Bruce Lipton, he was or is very present on YouTube, and I found came across videos about high-speed mindset change and how to rewrite your thoughts. And yes, and he mentioned energy psychology, which I have never heard before, even throughout my entire coaching, certification, and work. Energy psychology never really came up. And I think actually it came up once, and then I looked it up, and that's how I came across a video from Bruce. And he mentioned several modalities in this video. I think it was resonance, repatterning, and a few other modalities, and PSYCH-K, and I looked up, and I think it was like 5. I looked up each one of them. I was like, okay, what is it? What is it? What is it? And then, yeah, PSYCH-K, absolutely, it resonated with me because of the muscle testing and everything that's involved. It's like, okay, this seems to be like a very hands-on, a hands-on way of changing.
Right. Yeah,
And
it's a beautiful complement to what you're already doing, because you're working with the health industry, and so this is very much inviting people to discover their own internal health aspect.
Yes.
And it in its mind, body, and spirit addressed all together. So beautiful. So
Yeah.
you've worked with PSYCH-K for a while. How would you, if somebody said, "What is PSYCH-K?" How would you define it?
Yeah, I would actually define it in a way that you align what you believe about yourself, about other people, about the world, with what you want to experience with yourself, with other people, the situations, and what you want to see in the world. That's pretty much bringing these two worlds together, what you want to see or what you want to experience with what you actually believe deep inside of you.
Right.
And that is for me the definition.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, and it's, often people go, "Oh, I wish this would change," or "I wish so-and-so would change," or "I wish this didn't happen in the world." And they are always looking outside themselves for somebody else to fix it. And PSYCH-K, one of the premise is really about self-responsibility and self-accountability and going within ourselves to create that change. And then, as you've experienced, once you shift it within, other things can now change in the outside world.
Yeah, and I think that's really what PSYCH-K brings about. It's this concrete process that is like self-contained pretty much, and it's very logical, but it's also, there's a lot of feeling involved, and it's all about taking responsibility, taking ownership for life experiences. And I think that's the biggest shift that people can go through to really get out of their victim mode and get into the driver's seat. And
exactly.
that's
right.
just an awesome opportunity, and PSYCH-K facilitates that so beautifully.
Exactly. Beautiful. Thank you. And so, speaking of that, what have you personally transformed, or maybe a client that you've worked with, because we can address the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual aspects. So is there any story that you would like to share from your own life or from a client's experience?
Well, first of all, I want to show something, because when I went through my first PSYCH-K training, I suddenly had the realization about my childhood experience. I started reflecting on, okay, what actually happened in the first 5-7 years of my life. And then I was like, why don't I draw a timeline and really try to bring these memories, these key memories back to mind and see what actually happened there, because I have very concrete, nothing super traumatic, but very concrete memories of certain situations in my life. And then I did this, I drew, I don't know if you can see it, but it's pretty much a timeline, and I put in different events here. So I described the events, and then what happened, what I probably must have felt, and what kind of belief was probably programmed inside of me. And then I started working and reshaping that. And that's when the whole thing, for me, it was, I don't know, probably like 20 or 30 pages now. Each page has 100 balances, like all situations that I went through. And I just, this is awesome, because it's such a beautiful way of just going through it and changing something, and then see, okay, how does it feel now? If you go back to that memory of what happens in my life now, do I feel different? Do I think different? And so nothing concrete in this regard, but actually 2 weeks ago, I had probably the most profound experience myself working with another facilitator about a pre-birth experience where a trauma of loss was experienced that has actually resulted in very interesting life experiences that can be absolutely 100% be connected to that. What happened with my parents divorcing, I divorced, and I got divorced, and in friendships and in love relationships. I'm still actually processing that, because there are so many connecting dots that are now popping up just based on this one very deep PSYCH-K session that we had, where we went into my time before birth, pretty much, and it was profound. There were a lot of tears. It's crazy, really, really cool.
Yeah. That's awesome. And what that indicates, and what your experience is that you don't have to always know the source of what's going on. And that's what's beautiful about PSYCH-K, is that we're aligning our conscious mind, but we're also honoring that the subconscious has been there the whole time. So even pre-birth, you had a subconscious perception of what was going on and locked into a loss of some type. And then we also work with superconscious or spirit. And so the idea is we get to align all three, and that produces quite often these profound experiences that people have.
Yes. And I think that's also what I like about that, exactly what you just said. You don't essentially need to go back to a traumatic experience. You just see what is happening in your life right now and what you don't want to experience anymore. And that's just that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Define, identify what you don't want. Then we switch it to what do you do want, and then move it into the processes of change. So beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
So you've taken a couple of the workshops. As you were exposed to PSYCH-K and you were moving towards a workshop, did you have any questions about the process? Because some people are looking at this and these videos and they've never taken a class. So did you have any doubts about or questions coming into the workshop, or what would you share with somebody that's questioning taking a workshop?
I think for me, it was the muscle testing, to really trust the muscle testing. I had that experience before with other modalities, but not in the context of PSYCH-K, and to trust your own muscle testing. That was for me the biggest challenge, I would say, but it just requires practice, trust and practice, and you will find especially if my background is engineering, and when you come from that logical, rational side, I think it may take a bit longer, but it works. And I think just instilling the idea of muscle testing is pretty much the connection between your mind and your body, the communication tool, so to say. And that's one component about PSYCH-K that I really like, because it makes it so applicable and so hands-on for people who experience it.
Right, exactly. And with that, a couple things. One is muscle testing is not unique to PSYCH-K. As you said, you've learned it in other modalities, but we do have a couple things the way we do it that's rather unique. And I've had many people like yourself come in and they go, I'm not sure about muscle testing. And then they experience it within the context of how we use it. They're like, oh, now I get it. Now it's working.
Mm.
And, you know, in the workshops, we teach people how to do it in partnership, in person. But like you mentioned, you also learn how to do it with yourself,
Yeah.
using your fingers or something for muscle testing. And the whole idea with that is pure empowerment, because in the workshop, you learn how to use the processes for yourself, and you learn how to self-test, so you can go home and never have to work with anybody else. I mean, we do suggest, you know, it's always great to have someone else to bounce ideas off of, but you've got full empowerment to work within your own world. And if you want to work with others, you can, you know, in private sessions. And some people start with private sessions, and some people go straight to workshops, and there's no right or wrong with that. It's whatever feels best for them.
Yes.
Some people aren't interested in the workshops, which is totally fine. You can work with someone in the private sessions. So I know you do private sessions. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Is there anything, you mentioned muscle testing was challenging, you know, kind of learning to trust it. Is there anything else? We just want to be transparent. Is there anything else you found challenging around PSYCH-K?
Just grasping and trusting the idea that we have different levels of the mind, and that they communicate with each other, and that we don't always have to be consciously aware of something that wants to be balanced, right? Something that can happen in the background between our subconscious and our superconscious mind, that we do not consciously have to know what is shifting. And that was initially challenging, but then I reminded myself, we are all energy, and we are surrounded by this energy field, and our thoughts are energy. So why does everything have to go through the conscious mind, right? Why?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're so programmed. We've got to have the right idea. We've got to think it here. And you're right. Learning to go, okay, wait, it's all energy. Do I have to know everything consciously? No, you don't. And that's so freeing when you realize that.
Yeah. And on top of that, also not creating too much story around the changes, the change process, and not trying to to dig deeper into trying to rationalize it, understanding it, and just letting it be and trusting the process, and also having the curiosity, and not because what I did here, right, it looks like, oh man, this guy is nuts. He has like hundreds and hundreds of things, and it's like, well, I think the one thing that I learned is to really be patient, and let the changes happen and sink in and manifest in yourself and in your life, and just become really observing of the nuances that are happening, people that are suddenly talk different to you, or situations you encounter, or impulses that you suddenly become aware of. And I think that's such a fascinating part of that journey.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. It's, you know, some people get immediate massive change and they recognize it immediately, and others it's subtle. And so I love the nuances of the shift. And sometimes other people recognize it faster than we do. You know, that we're in a calmer state, and somebody's like, something's changed. What's changed? You got a new hairstyle. It's like, no, I found peace within, or something, you know, like that. So
exactly. Or they cannot explain themselves. Like I had a client the other day, and her first session was like, I something clicked. I cannot put my finger on it, but something clicked, and this entire week was different. My interactions with my boss, with my coworkers, in general, I felt lighter. I don't know what you did, and so I didn't do anything. We just did some energy, and now things start happening in a different way for you. And
Yeah. It's really, one of the challenges I had with this when I started with it 25 years ago was the simplicity of it. And I needed things to be complicated. And this is really very simple. It's as simple as coding, you know, upgrading our computer.
Yes.
You push a button, it upgrades. I mean, it's almost, if you can think about it that way, it's almost that simple. So I want to let people know you do private sessions. So would you share your website, and we'll put it in the text also, but would you share your website so people can have that and get in contact with you?
Yeah, the best way to reach me is through www.coachforbalance.com. It's coach and then the number 4, balance.com.
Beautiful. Great. Awesome. Thank you very much, Lars.
Thank you,
Great to
Robin.
chat with
It
you.
was a
Yeah.
pleasure.